This is Dr. Chris's Radio Horror Show on the YouTube channel, and returning to us to talk about Dr. Sleep is the Blonde in Front of Fear, Katie Glidewell. Thank you for joining us once again, Katie, for this Stephen King adaptation.
And thank you very much, Dr. Chris. And yes, my fellow listeners, this is the wake-up call to Dr. Sleep, directed by Mike Flanagan, starring Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, and Kylie Curran. Dr. Sleep is the sequel to The Shining, which came out in 1980. So, it had 39 years to make this film. And damn it, if this is how long it takes to make a sequel to a film this good, then Hollywood needs to take note. Now, Dr. Sleep starts out with little baby, not baby, but, 6 to 7-year-old Danny Torrance. He and his mom are out of the Overlook Hotel in bright and sunny Florida, and you have a whole new cast of people who are a little bit of evildoers, because when Danny has his shine on, which we all know about, now there are other people that we find out that have the shine. Also little children, but we now realize that there are people who like to eat these children because like to eat their shine. That's a whole other thing that we didn't know. And then it transports you to Ewan McGregor as Danny Torrance. All a bunch of drinking, all a bunch of fighting.
All a bunch of drugs and schlepping with hookers and bars.
Well, and then leaving them with their babies, which, spoiler alert, there's a sequence in the film that doesn't delve into it too much, but I'm almost positive that Danny Torrance had a little one-night stand with a lady who had a baby, and when he wakes up, she had thrown up in the bed. I'm almost positive that she ended up choking and dying in that bed, or did not wake up, and so the baby and her are kind of dead, and he sees that later on in his life. I'm not for sure positive. That's what I got from that scene, which was kind of frightening. Spoiler, kids. Spoiler. I said spoiler earlier. And
let's take a quick moment to discuss that scene. So who is the actress in that scene? So you hire this actress to get to make out with Ewan McGregor, and then have a partial nude scene in her own vomit, just as a quick fridging of the female for the hero to move forward, because when she shows back up in The Shining, all like, it's supposed to drive him to become a better person.
Yes.
Kind of unnecessary, and I don't remember if that's in the book.
It necessarily drives him. It definitely makes him think that, the mistakes that he's made, he can't keep doing this. And the fact that he was he had all of his money. He was going to take hers, but he saw the baby. It was like, the baby needs that money for food.
Well, don't forget, it was Carl Lumbly.
Oh, yeah. I know that.
Yeah. Jack Halloran, is that his name?
That I am not sure.
The character's name is it's Jazz from
Transformers. Yeah, Dick Halloran.
Dick Halloran.
Oh, Dick Halloran.
Yep, Jazz from Transformers, now played by best known for playing the Martian Manhunter a lot of times on the Justice League and Supergirl television series and cartoons. He is the new Scatman Crothers.
Yes. Well, and they've got Alex Esso that's playing Wendy Torrance, who I think did an amazing job, especially with her physicality and facial expressions. Like she made it her own without trying to I don't know. I just think she did a fantastic job as Wendy Torrance. But the main things that you see in this film is Danny Torrance trying to get out of where he was when he was a kid, even, 30-something years later. Now you've got a whole new girl named Kylie Curran, who has played Kylie Curran is an actress and plays Abra, who has the shine, who knows she has a special gift but wants to keep it under wraps because she knows it freaks out her family, and they find that out. The family finds it out during a little scene where she's doing an abracadabra magic trick with a magician that's at her house, played by Shane Brady. Hey, shout out to him, friend of mine. And you have a 4-year-old little girl who just goes nuts in the house and does all this stuff, and her parents are kind of freaked out. She is one of my highlights of the film. I thought her performance was fantastic. But my main thing that I loved about this was Rebecca Ferguson as Rosa Hatt. She is honestly my favorite villain of 2019. She is the leader of a pack of people who have special gifts, but they eat the shining children. And if they find out that you as an adult have this ability, They may eat you. It's not the same flavor or taste, but they also may turn you to get your abilities to turn other people. Once Abra and Danny find out about these people, then it's a whole new story. One of the things I love about this film, it complements both King and Kubrick while also having that Flanagan flair. It does an excellent job of having a new story and the nostalgia in it, so that they complement each other without overpowering or saturating us with all this nostalgia. And that's hard to do, especially with a classic like The Shining. It's got amazing music. It's got some incredible practical effects by Robert Kurtzman. If anyone knows his work and knows what he has done with Flanagan, especially in Gerald's Game, these two together can sleeve a person like nobody's damn business. And oh, it just gave me a gut reaction when I'm watching that on screen. But I have to reiterate, Rebecca Ferguson, she is a standout to me in this film. I do not think it would be the same thing if she was not in it. I mean, she's beautiful. She is beastly. She is just a conniving villain, but also has this melodic voice that's like a snake charmer that can just woo anyone. And this film also has one of the most horrendous death scenes I've seen in 2019. I recommend the hell out of this. This is one of my favorite films. Not only probably my favorite horror film of the year, but one of my top 10 films of the year. So I say go see it.
And who played Jack Torrance in this movie? Because Jack Nicholson is pretty much retired alongside, former James Bond actor Sean Connery and never returning to cinema.
That was a thing that I had to tell all of my fellow theater goers. And also one of the negatives I have of the film. The person who played Jack Torrance in the film, spoiler, if you don't know, the person who played Jack Torrance was Henry Thomas. I couldn't figure it out when I was watching it because they have a profile of him, but you hear his voice. You can't tell it's him during the profile, but when I figured out with the voice, it made sense. He does a lot with Flanagan too. I mean, he's a Flanagan favorite, so it didn't surprise me. It did. I don't want to say it. I was a little disappointed because I don't know. I mean, for some reason they made him. I think they made him gain weight to be Jack Torrance, and I never in my life saw Jack Torrance being like an overweight kind of like with the dad bod in The Shining, but in this film they kind of made Henry Thomas do that, and I'm like, I don't know why you did that. And I do think they probably could have picked someone else better for that part, but at the same time it's a fun little Easter egg to like find a horror classic and familiar face that does another familiar face. So it's one of those, I'm disappointed, and yet I'm not. I mean, but I think it could have been a better thing. But yeah, I love the movie. What about you? What did you like about it?
I liked Ian McGregor's performance in the movie, mainly because I'll watch almost anything he does. I'm looking forward to his upcoming roles being Black Mask and returning to Obi-Wan Kenobi once again. But other than him, there's not a lot that stands out in this movie. I'm completely on the opposite fence of the actress who's playing, what's her name? Wendy Torrance? Is that his mom's name?
Yeah, Alex Esso.
Yeah. No. Not really. Having read the book ahead of time, a couple things that are majorly that needed to offset people. And yes, Stephen King did get final say on the script because they had to make it in Kubrick's world. For one thing, Dick lives at the end of the Shining book. He doesn't get an axe to the chest. He actually goes on to live with Danny and Wendy to help raise Danny with the shining powers. Also gives a sickening background into what happened to him as a child, which thank God they didn't put this into the movie. Another thing they didn't put into the movie, which I would have liked, and it would have been like a really big jolt, the Shining vampire eaters, the Mrs. Hat and her group. Do you know? Do you know
Rosa Hat?
Yeah. Do you know what they did on 9/11?
No.
They went to New Jersey at the edge of the water, overlooking the destruction of the Twin Towers, and they started inhaling and sucking in all of the Shining steam in the book that was being emptied into the atmosphere on all the people who were getting killed in the World Trade Center.
Okay.
Yeah, that
I
is
mean,
in the
that's horrible. I mean, I think they're horrible people anyway.
that's in the
But I
book.
mean,
That's in the book, and they decided not to put that in the movie. Very similar to not putting a child orgy into the movie in the original It. There are other things from the book or whatever that they completely change, and they have to because they're in Kubrick's world. The Overlook Hotel is destroyed in the original Shining novel, but it's still standing here. And they actually do go to the cliffside where the Overlook Hotel once remained, and they just do battle out in the open. Whereas in this or whatever, we get the Overlook Hotel back, which is interesting and does play on some interesting dynamics for the big battle scene. The most ridiculous thing of all, I think, though, is the giant coffin or the wooden box that he's trying to trap her in using the Shining powers, and it doesn't quite come across very well as more than a comedic gag like in a Looney Tune cartoon.
that I will disagree on.
Also, there's no sense of dread in this movie when it comes to, what's the name of the little girl again?
Abra.
Abra. There is no sense of dread. I mean, the only time I felt a sense of dread is when Mrs. Hat is inside her head and the file cabinet scene or whatever. She just Jean Greys her powers like crazy, and she's like 13 years old, and she's automatically able to defeat this woman who has been able to murder children left and right. And every 5 minutes, it just seems like she is way too powerful. It's the same problem I have with Rey in the Star Wars films. There's just no sense of danger when it comes to her. She is just powerful for powerful's sake.
Well, no, but I think that's one of the reasons why Rose the Hat goes after her. And she says that specifically to one of her team, that it's like she's never felt power like this before. Like this could feed them for a decade and more. It's like, and it's so raw. And it's like, where's it coming from? It's like, she's like, I don't know. I need to find it. But someone was looking at us. And then when she like threw her back, like she was, I mean, it made her nose bleed. Like she knew this was a power. And it's also, you're saying that she was getting into Abra's head, but it's like almost that I think she was in Rose the Hat's head, because she even said like when she's in the file cabinet, she's going through to try and find stuff. And she's like, she was inside my head. It's like, that's never happened before. I mean, you got this little girl who, I mean, and she wanted to take it on, like because she wanted everything to stop. She saw what these people were doing to kids, and she knew it was only a matter of time before they would get to her or they would get to other children. She didn't want that to happen. And it's like, if this is what this power is meant to be, then that's what it's meant to be. Because I mean, Danny has been drinking for so long that, I mean, he has a lot of the power. But again, you know, the reason why he's Dr. Sleep, apparently a cat that is working, or not working, but living at the hospice where he's working, kind of has that same power as Danny does.
That cat, I was hoping, I don't remember the cat very much from the book, but I was hoping that cat was going to be like a partner for him. I didn't expect it to talk, or I didn't expect it to be like Salem from Sabrina or anything like that, or whatever the cat's name is, Binks from Hocus Pocus. But I expected that cat to have much more profound thing in the movie, and it honestly was just completely thrown away. It felt unnecessary to have that cat for just as little time as we had to have it. I honestly wanted more of Danny and Abra and their relationship than I got with everybody else in the movie. I understand we need to develop the villains, but that all being said, I enjoyed the movie. I do recommend it, but I do also recommend making sure you read the novel ahead of time before seeing this movie, and that goes with anything. That's all the time we have for this review. I appreciate Katie coming back on and talk about Dr. Sleep. Check out the rest of the reviews here on the Radio Horror YouTube channel, and come back for another excellent review from the Blonde in Front of Fear.